So we are going to have 7 temples here. In this area, just outside Perkota, there will be separate temples, not together. 7 separate temples will be built. कि इस पूरे स्ट्रक्चर में आयरन कहीं नहीं इस्तेमाल हुआ है, क्योंकि आयरन की लाइफ जो है वो 94-95 ईयर्स होती है. हम तो 1000 ईयर्स का टेम्पल बना रहे हैं. 3500 लेबर इज वर्किंग डे एंड नाइट. पीपल ऑफ my generation, even your generation, younger generation, and many generations who have gone, they never ever thought that the Ram temple will be a reality. Not a single pie has come from any government agency for the construction of the temple. The first Land Acquisition Act, it was implemented with the advice, aid and advice of ministers and myself. But the beauty of this Prime Minister is, when I went to tell him that please do not issue the third ordinance on this matter, he looked at me. He said, "You are telling me?" Not even once he would use the word, "You guys are responsible." He takes the full responsibility for what happens. His speech on my farewell, I couldn't believe. I was in tears. The cabinet ministers and secretaries to the government who were invited, they couldn't believe. Prime Minister spoke for 45 minutes and he spoke only about me.
Namaste, Jai Hind. You're watching or listening to another edition of the ANI podcast with Smita Prakash. Thank you for liking, subscribing and sharing with people who you think will benefit from these conversations. My guest today has been entrusted with the task of completing the construction of the Ram temple in Ayodhya. Mr. Nripendra Mishra is one of the most experienced bureaucrats of our times. He was Principal Secretary in the Prime Minister's office from 2014 to 2019. In the second term of Prime Minister Modi, when Mr. Mishra asked that he be relieved of his duties in the PMO, the Prime Minister accepted his resignation and tweeted, "Nripendra Mishra is among the most outstanding officers who has a great grasp of public policy and administration. When I was new to Delhi in 2014, he taught me a lot and his guidance remains extremely valuable." Unquote. Mr. Mishra couldn't really hang up his boots because he was soon appointed as the chairman of the Executive Council of the Nehru Memorial Museum and Library, and then as chairman of the Ayodhya Ram Mandir Construction Committee. So let's get chatting with the man himself who's entrusted with this task. He has to complete the construction of the Ram temple by January 2024. Mr. Mishra, thank you so much for being part of the podcast. I'm delighted that you could find the time and come to the studio here because I know that the deadlines are really sharp with the Pran Pratishtha to happen in January 2024. So I'm guessing that your work is like literally 24/7 to keep an eye on everything. But before I begin to ask you about the timelines and the construction process, one question which, for our overseas viewers and for our young viewers who are not very aware, would I say, of what it means to install a deity, what it means to do a Pran Pratishtha. It's not just bringing a deity and keeping there. What does the process mean? I know neither you nor I are priests, but a person who's the man in the hot seat, I'd want you to explain a little bit about what the process is.
Actually, it's a good question. And as you said, particularly for those who are not in some manner sort of educated will be a wrong word, but they have not yet have developed the kind of belief that people who are there and are attached with the temple will have. So now the process is that consecration means that the murti which is being sculpted today at the moment in Ayodhya, and hopefully it will be ready by middle of December, and we are going to have one of the three which is being sculpted there. So that will start its journey of consecration sometime around the second week of January. The journey starts with a dip in Saryu River.
The murti will be
Yeah.
taken to the Saryu River.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it could be any date, I am not sure, because that is the area which trust looks after. And more particularly, as you said, the priests would be taking care of that. But after the journey and to that place, it is believed that Lord, the child Ram, would like to visit the various temples which existed then
Okay.
in Ayodhya.
Prachin Mandir.
Yeah. So whatever temples are there today in Ayodhya, in the form of a procession, Lord would be, child Ram would be going in some kind of a chariot and stopping at some of the key temples of Ayodhya. And then finally, the deity or the whatever is carved, child Ram, that will enter the premises of the temple area.
So in this, it will enter from the eastern gate. Is that the eastern gate? It's not decided as yet?
Yeah. This is, the eastern gate is this, and the devotees would
Enter from there.
enter from there.
And where will the deity be?
Yeah, so I'm coming to that, to your question. The entrance for the child Ram, the chariot will enter from
Oh,
this portion.
okay, not from here.
No.
Okay.
And of course, it is not open to public.
Ah.
The whole ceremony is not open to public. It will somewhere take place very early in the morning.
Okay.
And then the deity will be placed in the sanctum sanctorum.
Garbhagriha.
You know, yeah. So it's a 3-story structure.
Is that structure complete?
Only the ground floor.
Okay.
What we have promised is that the ground floor, which is here, going like this, along with 5 mandap, these are mandaps,
Okay.
right?
Yeah.
5. Along with the 5 mandaps will be ready in January of 2024.
Right. I interrupted you, sir. So it will be taken to the Garbhagriha.
Right. And it enters the Garbhagriha, and what they do is, the belief is that the Pran Pratishtha would enable the Lord to see the devotees, and the devotees would be able to worship the Lord. So for that time, some kind of a band on his eyes, that is put. So from the date the entry is there, till the date of consecration, that is there, the band.
How interesting.
And it really is opened when the Pran Pratishtha consecration has taken place. And the belief is that from then on, he attains the qualities of a Lord, of a God, or supernatural person.
Okay.
So that is the belief. So transferring from a normal to a exceptional is the process which is consecration prayers. And final chanting of mantras, opening of the band, and then he is now exposed to the world and universe. That is the final consecration, which will be on 22nd of January 2024.
Right. Two questions that emerge, which I'm sure people who haven't followed it in the news completely would have, is what you said is that the idol is being sculpted right now in Ayodhya, one of the three idols. So then that needs to be explained to some of our viewers who don't know the details, because many would say that isn't Ram Lalla's idol already there, baby Ram's idol already there, so why is it being sculpted? And if there's a new idol which is coming, what happens to the earlier idol?
It is true, the belief is, and this belief is from 1947-49, that Ram Lalla appeared there. That is the belief. So that is the present in a temporary hut meant which is there, the Lord is there. And the prayer of that Lord Ram, child Ram, has been going uninterrupted. You may be surprised to know that since 1947, when the first news flashed in Ayodhya that the Lord has appeared at this place, the regular prayers of the Lord has never been interrupted. Now, your question that you already have a Lord, then why do you want to have another Lord? It's true. We thought of it. One reason was that people who will come now will have a darshan from a certain distance, which will be minimum about 25 to 30 feet. So in order to meet the eyes of the Lord with the person who is doing the prayer, and in order to see the feet of the Lord, there has to be another creation, another Lord which has to be sculpted. And that is why it was decided that we'll have a standing statue.
Correct. I've seen Ram Lalla statue. I've been to Ayodhya a couple of times, and I've had the good fortune to see it. So I saw it as a journalist, to see that what is it that made so much news. Can I see the statue? तो बड़ी मुश्किल से पहली बार I went out there to see it, and when I saw Ram Lalla, I was like, इतने छोटे एक तो दिखाई भी नहीं दे रहे थे, because वो एक केज सा बना हुआ था, तो वो दिखते नहीं है, और वो यूं देखते हैं, and within a few minutes you have to leave, you see, because the security was so high at that point of time, because there was so much threat to that area. और वो वैसे भी जर्नलिस्ट जब आते हैं तो the security forces are suspicious of us. तो छोटा सा, and you can barely see the Lord. बहुत छोटे हैं, the मूर्ति is very little.
At the moment, all those who come
जी.
hardly get to see.
Huh.
In fact, they only see it on the television screen.
Oh.
Because there is a television. So while moving on, and as you rightly said, the police manages the crowd. So they are moving very fast from there. Perhaps they just see that there on the screen.
Correct.
So from that point of view also it was thought. But then your question, what will you do to that present Lord? The Sanctum Sanctorum is going to have a place for standing Ram, child Ram, who is of the age 4 to 5 years.
Okay.
And just in front of that will be the present Lord.
Baby.
Hubi. And the distinction is that one is called Achal Murti. Achal means it will never from now on move.
Okay.
So the Pran Pratishtha which is being done, that will be the Achal Murti. It will not move out from the Sanctum Sanctorum.
That's the standing one, या baby
standing
वाला?
one.
Standing one. वो अच्छा.
And what will come on that day, it will come on 22nd of January. From the present temple, it will move to the Sanctum Sanctorum. That is called Utsav Murti. What is the meaning of Utsav Murti is
Festival.
That there could be occasions when in a festival, the trust decides to take the procession of the Lord Ram, like you have in Jagannath Puri.
Jagannath, correct.
So then Utsav Murti will go,
Okay.
but not the
Achal.
Achal Murti. So that is how both the Murtis, they will be there in the Sanctum Sanctorum, and there will be regular prayer and all the other ceremonies of the Lord, both for them separately.
Acha.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
Interesting.
they will be prayed, and there will be prayer for the existing, and there will be a prayer for the...
And both the murtis will be in the sanctum sanctorum?
Yes.
Both will be there?
Yes.
तो जब हम आगे जाएंगे, when we bow our head before the murtis, we'll be bowing our head before both the murtis.
Oh yes, oh yes.
And both will be visible
Yes,
clearly.
yes. They will be very clearly visible. Perhaps better visibility to the standing one.
Huh.
But you will be able to see what was there from 1947 onwards, which is supposed to have suddenly come there at the site.
Prakat
and
hue.
Pragat ho gaye. And the second one is the one which is going to be now installed, and consecration will take place.
Right. Now you said there are three murtis. Are these three murtis made of different material? Like, is it granite, marble, bronze, brass, gold? What
You
are
see, that process was a bit technical.
Ji.
The first thing that we were very careful was that the stone which is chosen must have certain minimum chemical qualities. For example, it must not absorb water.
Okay.
It must not react to the carbon which is there in the atmosphere, because all that will affect the durability, the life of the statue. So with all those qualifications, we got the stones first collected. Those stones came from Jaipur. They also came from south, Krishna Shila, granite, you mentioned. And they were all tested by National Institute of Rock Mechanics. It's a Government of India institute, specializing only on sort of doing the tests of various stones and determining their strength. It is in Mysore, Karnataka.
Okay.
So all these stones were tested. And after that, 3 stones which were selected, one from Jaipur, which is a marble, and 2 Krishna Shila from 2 places of Karnataka, that has come, and these 3 were given to 3 different sculptors.
Okay.
And they, at the moment, they have been working for the last 2 months, and at the moment they are working on that.
Okay.
And they will
It must be
finally
under
deliver.
extreme secrecy.
Oh
so
yes, oh yes.
Huh?
No one visits, no one takes photograph, no video, nothing is
Okay.
there, and it is being carved under.
So, why a question would, of course, I can understand that the reason why all this is being done is that we want that those murtis to survive hundreds of years from now. अभी बन रही है, पर वो 100, 150, 300, whatever सालों तक चले. You know that there shouldn't be anything which harms those. Why not the ashtadhatus which have lasted for so long? Why not metal?
एक तो हम लोगों ने मेटल का इस्तेमाल ही नहीं किया. आपको
जी.
जानकारी होगी कि इस पूरे स्ट्रक्चर में आयरन कहीं नहीं इस्तेमाल हुआ है.
Because?
क्योंकि आयरन की लाइफ जो है वो 94-95 ईयर्स होती है. हम तो 1000 ईयर्स का टेम्पल बना रहे हैं. तो अष्टधातु के बनते हैं. आपने बिल्कुल सही कहा. बहुत से भगवान की मूर्तियाँ अष्टधातु की हैं. लेकिन यहाँ पे इट वॉज थॉट दैट लेट अस कॉन्सेंट्रेट ऑन द स्टोन. The entire structure is also of special stone. So we would focus on the stone and not. It was debated. And finally, after the debate in the trust, some of the saints, sages who are member of the trust, they expressed in favor of a stone statue.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
more from the durability point of view than anything else.
Before I ask the next question, here is a short primer about the specs of the temple, which is under construction now, which is the area and things like that. So please watch this primer. The total area is 2.7 acres. Built up area is 57,000 square feet. The height of the temple, including the peak, is 161 feet. It has 3 floors, with the height of each floor being 20 feet. Sir, अभी आप मुझे अगर explain करें that how many artisans are working in this area. You can explain the plinth and you can explain the various structures. How long have they been working? Because I have been there several times in the past 15 years and I've been seeing जो pillar construction हो रहे थे and you know they were just lying there. जो ईंट आए थे, that also story I had covered. जो हर जगह से लोग लेके आए थे, you know that one
yes,
trains
one brick
में
from every village.
From every village जिसमें लिखा हुआ था Ram. And from so I covered that story. I mean, it's dating me right now. People will know how old I am. But I covered all those stories and I covered that pillars which were lying there. And that entire area was infested with monkeys. They were like, it was scary to go and shoot there also. When I used to take the camera, डर लगता था to shoot because पूरे बंदर ही बंदर थे वहाँ पे.
One of the reasons we haven't provided the solar supply of power is because there are so many monkeys.
Yeah.
That it's a menace throughout Ayodhya and you can do nothing about them. There is a certain feeling about it.
Yes.
So reverence.
Yeah.
So because of that, we avoided
To do,
the solar supply of power.
My goodness. Okay. So now, you know, the question about how long the construction has been going on is I guess it's an answer that you can date it back to God knows how many years. But actual construction और कितने लोग यहाँ पे काम कर रहे हैं, कहाँ से आए ये artisans, craftsmen, scientists, archaeologists, जो भी specific areas के हैं, वो हमें समझा दीजिए.
First, of course, the construction. You know, Prime Minister Mr. Modi, we don't say laid the foundation, but the Shubharam of the construction started by him, and that was 5th of August 2020. So the real construction, the trust was formed in the February of 2020 after the Supreme Court judgment in November 19, and then the trust came into being, and then my existence was recognized as chairman of this construction committee. So all this happened in February, and August Prime Minister came. So the construction started. You asked a very good question, and in fact I am smiling a little bit more than normal because today I got the news that they have got 3,500 labor. There was a huge shortage of labor which suddenly happened because of the festival season.
Correct.
And that was adversely in some manner slowing down the construction of the temple and the date line which we have to stick to, that is 31st of December 23. So today 3,500 labor is working day and night.
Wow.
Which is working on all sites. They are not all working here. If I get the chance, I'll explain you.
Ji, please do.
That what all is happening. This is the main construction going on today of the ground floor, which we hope to complete by December 2023. That is just 1 month after. They will have the mandapas, the shikhar will not be there because shikhar can only come up when the first and second story is built.
Okay.
So this will not be seen. But there is another structure which is important, and that is the lower plinth. The lower plinth, just below the ground floor, is where the story of Ram will be sculpted in stone.
Okay.
About 100 murals of stone would be fixed there, and that will tell the story of Ram.
Pictorially or written?
No, pictorially.
Pictorially?
Yeah, nothing written. It is being carved out, and the different people, sculptors are already doing that work.
So birth of Ram to everything, Vanvas and...
Yes, right
Okay.
up to return to Ayodhya and his coronation. So that is being done here in this. Below that lower plinth, there is a very interesting construction story and engineering challenge. The first thing is foundation. The foundation of the temple. So, after the soil test, it was noted that perhaps maybe few hundred years back, Saryu was passing through this place,
Oh.
almost touching the palace.
तो clay soil हो गया फिर?
So, yes, the soil, because of that, was not a very stable soil.
Oh.
So, the experts said that the pile foundation would not be suitable because of that.
Okay.
So, what we were advised by IIT Chennai, who are one of our advisory members, that please dig 15 meters deep in the entire area, remove the soil, just remove the soil and fill it with the another soil which is called re-engineered soil.
Okay.
This re-engineered soil is the recommendation is a mix, the quality of which is that in about 14 days time, each layer which is being put, that converts itself into a stone-like quality.
अच्छा.
So the foundation itself is, you can take it, is made of stone.
Okay.
On that we have got the raft, which again is about 2.5 meters. On that we have got granite plinth, which again is another 1.5 meters in width. And over that the laying of the stone, Bansi Paharpur stone, which is the temple. So the temple has come up after the construction of foundation, raft and plinth. And why was it done with such care was because Central Building Research Institute, Roorkee, who are also again our consultants, they were responsible for checking that it should be able to undertake an earthquake which will be 50 times of all records till now. So right from Nepal to Ayodhya, the earthquake intensity was measured till now historically. Then it was simulated in the laboratory, and that strength was provided to this foundation, raft, and over that the stone. That is why we at least would like to believe that what we have done would last for 1,000 years.
Wow.
So this
So
is
one question before you go further. आपने कहा that this soil, ये soil आया कहाँ से? One, which you brought in. दूसरा, if in case there is flooding of the Saryu River, can that affect the temple?
Good question. Soil, of course, you see, a separate soil was filtered, and that was mixed with certain chemical and also with little bit of cement, a special cement for that was mixed, and that is how that soil was made.
Okay.
And that soil was layer by layer, it was brought. It was then compacted for about 2-3 days. Then a sample was taken. Once the sample was approved that, okay, this has a quality, then another layer was put. So in the foundation, such 47 layers have been put.
Okay.
And that makes 15 meters. So that is how it has been, the soil has been put there. In the entire area,
In there, okay.
entire area of the temple.
Okay.
Yeah.
And the Saryu River?
Yeah. The issue of the flood was also checked. And the present, again, public sector undertaking, which is a research lab of CSIR, they have now confirmed that this area, the level of it, the ground level on which it is situated, is completely free of any flood which can come in Ayodhya.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
So that is protected.
Okay. Now we come to the question of which you were saying that extra laborers have been brought to complete the work so that it's done, the deadline is met. Where did they come from? Were they are they expert carvers? I saw one interview in which you said that many have come from Orissa and from Rajasthan.
Yeah.
So where all have they come from?
You see, the entire construction, as I mentioned, we are engaged here in constructing. Then there is another construction which is this called percotta. This percotta, the cost of this percotta is 200 crores more than the cost of the temple.
Oh.
That is the size of the percotta. In fact, the temple is in about 2.5 acres, but when the percotta will be constructed, it will become 8.5 acres.
That's like a corridor.
Yeah, that's like a corridor, of which the outer wall will be completely, in some manner, you can say, it protects the temple. No one can enter from anywhere except the eastern gate because of this percotta. And this inner wall of the percotta opens towards the temple, and this is open. So the people who will do the parikrama of the temple will be doing the parikrama like this. So this is called percotta. And then there are constructions such as on a Kuber Tila, which is a very high point, which is not here you can see because it is only up to percotta. The Jatayu is there.
Okay.
A statue of bronze which is being made now, ready now for installation. It is 15 feet in height and 20 feet in width, and the Jatayu is looking towards the temple. So he is in a kind of a meditation towards Lord and is standing there.
Where is the Jatayu statue being made? In
Yeah.
India?
Oh yes. There is a famous person, sculptor, his name is Ram Sutar. So they are doing
Okay,
it.
the reason is because in Southeast Asia you see so many Jatayu statues and they're so phenomenal. That's why I asked कि कहीं वहाँ से तो नहीं आ रहा या फिर- Not that there is anything wrong, but I'm just saying that it'd be interesting.
So that is also, there is a Kuber Tila. Then there is a huge building which can accommodate 5,000 devotees at any point of time, which is called Pilgrimage Facilitation Center.
In this thing itself?
Within the premises,
Okay,
outside percotta,
outside, okay.
that is also. So 3,500, I mentioned that only to sort of emphasize that the labor which is engaged, at the moment we are tackling about 5-6 constructions.
Not just this.
Not
okay.
just this, but about 5-6 constructions in the 71-acre area, which will be there.
Okay. So, my original question is, where did the laborers come from?
Yeah.
How were they selected? And who selected them?
Larsen Toubro are our constructing agency. They are the implementing agency.
Okay.
And their work is being monitored by Tata Consultant of Engineers. So, they are responsible for selecting. For each thing, artisans are different. For iconography work, what is called, to Hindi, Roop Kam, where the small figures are created on pillars.
Okay.
So that carving is done at the spot here.
Oh.
There are 390 pillars in this temple. Each temple has got about
Each pillar
30.
has.
Each pillar has about 30 such statues. So they will be carved, and the people who are expert in that are from Orissa.
Okay.
So they have come from there. In placement of the stone, the labor from Rajasthan has shown better expertise, skill than others.
प्लेसमेंट बोले तो वो ग्राउंड पे
No. You see, the most important thing is, since the temple is of stone only, and the stone is, one stone is placed, then another stone,
Oh,
then
you said
third stone, the fourth
no
stone,
iron, huh.
and no iron. Only copper clips are there to ensure that they are properly fixed over each other.
Okay.
But there is no such thing that we have a groove and then we get the stone fixed there in the groove. No. It is the manner in which the stone is being placed one over the other. And that is checked by Central Building Research Institute, that there is no space left between the two stones. That is the work with Rajasthan people can do better.
Okay.
So we got from Rajasthan, some from Saharanpur, etc. So, I mean, different people have come to participate in the construction of the temple, largely, of course, from Western India, Maharashtra, Orissa, Gujarat, Rajasthan.
ओके यू सी आस्था तो सबकी रहेगी मंदिर के लिए बट देर आर सम पीपल हु वांट टू से कि मेरे स्टेट का कुछ है क्या एवरीबडी विल वांट दैट राइट सो यू सेड दैट one of the statues is being done with a stone from Mysore or so obviously people from Tamil Nadu, which there are so many who come, right? अभी भी आते हैं वहाँ पे I have seen श्रद्धालु आते हैं तो वो सोचेंगे आंध्रा वाले सोचेंगे हमारा कुछ है क्या नॉर्थ ईस्ट वाले सोचेंगे हमको भी चाहिए because everybody has आस्था towards Lord Ram. So will there be some element of everything and then कोई सोचेगा दैट शबरी का कुछ है क्या जटायु अगर है तो जटायु का कुछ है केवट वाले सोचेंगे केवट का कुछ है सब लोग अपना सोच रहे हैं कि रिप्रेजेंटेटिव है कि
इट शुड बी डेफिनेटली इन फैक्ट इन माय कन्वर्सेशंस few interviews with Prime Minister, he was very emphatic that every person from every nook and corner of this country, when he enters this temple, he should not see this temple as a Eastern Indian temple or a Northern Indian temple or a Southern temple. He must see this is the temple of the last reference as far as the faith is concerned. He was particular about it. So, the first thing is that all those 4 lakh and more bricks which came from about 5 lakh villages all over the country, that has been placed here in the foundation.
Amazing.
All of it has been placed in the foundation along with the engineered soil. And we first obtained the report from IIT Chennai that it will no way compromise with the strength of the foundation, and that has been placed.
Okay.
So that answers your, at least a fraction of your anxiety that every state in some manner is represented.
Right. Every village is represented if that is how it is.
Every village is represented. Also there were objectives of social harmony.
जी.
Because, I mean, I'm sorry, but that is important to tell you. Many people believe that Ram attained the status of Maryada Purushottam only during his Bangaman, when he was exiled, when he went to the jungle for 14 years. That's where he attained the highest ethical lessons for governance and even for the universe. So, obviously social harmony was one of the objectives. And how is that represented? You just mentioned Nishad. He met Sabrima. He met Ahilya. So many people whom he interacted with, it was not just a meeting. Somewhere in that was a message. Somewhere in that was a message that every person in the society is equal to God, is acceptable to God, is dear to God.
Ji.
So we are going to have 7 temples here. In this area, just outside Parkota, there will be separate temples, not together. 7 separate temples will be built for starting with Maharshi Valmiki,
Okay.
then Vashisht, then Nishad Maharaj, then Sabri Mata, Ahilya, and like that 7 of such temples are to be built. All taken together, and the ultimate objective is, you see, this is the Eastern Gate.
Ji.
So our aspiration is, and let us say it will be a reality, we will, after this, at some distance here, we will construct, like in South India, you have the welcome gate arch,
Dwar.
which is there. So that will be built, so that anybody from south who enters immediately identifies that the construction here is what they have in southern India also.
And a Gopuram, I'm guessing.
That is the Gopuram.
Yeah.
That's the word, Gopuram is the right word for
Yeah.
that. Yeah. So that will be constructed here.
Okay. What are the flags in this thing?
They all represent, the flag represents the Suryavanshi flag, because the Lord belonged to that Ichyasu, I am unable to pronounce correctly, bunch, and that
Mishra ji
is
kaise nahi pronounce kar sakte?
and that is the bunch to which he belonged,
Yeah.
and therefore all these flags are of that.
Right. So, what is the role of the Shri Ram Janmabhoomi Tirth Kshetra Trust? Now, the Prime Minister appointed you, I'm guessing, to speed up the process and to be the overarching person in, to coordinate everything. What does this trust do? Are they to see कि धर्मानुसार सब कुछ होना चाहिए and रीति पद्धति, all this should be followed, because usually one expects that. And the funds, are they overseeing the funds? Who does all that?
My existence came from the Supreme Court judgment. The judgment says that there will be a construction committee which will be headed by some person. So that is where I am appointed as chairperson, and in that capacity I am member of the trust. So that is the position ex officio. The trust is an autonomous registered body, and it is headed by a president of the trust, or chairman you want to call it, and there is general secretary, there is a treasurer and other trust members. And it functions like any other autonomous society. And they are responsible for the administration, not during construction, but they will be responsible forever.
Oh.
They are responsible to ensure that the management takes place. They will ensure that the crowd management is proper. They will ensure that the pilgrims have the facility which is required. They will ensure that the funds are properly used for the purpose it is intended. So entire thing, and it will be audited also.
Okay.
So the trust functions in some manner, because it's a charitable trust, and it obviously, as the charitable trusts are, they are exempted from tax and all that. So they are responsible for presentation of their annual budget, annual expenditure and audit. Not a single pie has come from any government agency for the construction of the temple.
That
Or
needs to
will not come also.
Okay.
Everything which has come and the collection of fund till now, which is a unique cooperation of the people of India, from almost again every village of India, about 3,500 crore has been collected.
Okay.
And it is there in the accounts of the trust. So, and they are responsible for it.
Small and large sums have come in from...
Mostly it has come from small people. A coupon was given for 100 rupees. About, I am told that more than 1 lakh voluntary workers, they were given the receipt books. They went round the various panchayats. they talked to the people, and those who contributed, they collected money. They then deposited that at the district level, then to the state level, and then to the
And
trust
that's a
accounts.
pan-India program that was done.
Completely, yeah. More than 4 lakh. In fact, one estimate is that more than 5 lakh villages were contacted, or people went there, explained the purpose of the temple, and then said that if you wish to donate anything, you are welcome to
So
do
then
that.
anybody who feels that it's an eastern or northern temple knows now that the brick was also something which came in from different lakhs of people worked on that. The bricks came from different parts of the country. The money for construction came in from all parts of the country. So it is representative of a pan-India effort that went into building this. Security, sir, could you tell me how secure and what are the arrangements which are being made that it will be absolutely 100% secure? Because everybody knows that, there's a history to it and a
There is
past and a
threat.
present and
It's
a future.
soft target.
Ji.
So the security is in two parts. One is the security within the temple or within the building premises. That is entirely that of the trust. The trust will have its own arrangement for ensuring that everything goes as per their plan, their scheme. But the entire security that has been entrusted to Government of Uttar Pradesh, and they have formed a special, SPG here in Government of India, which takes care of VIPs. They have formed a special wing within the police system, which will be responsible for the security of certain specified temple. This is one of them.
Okay.
And they have already placed those constables now within the temple premises.
Right. So now let me get to the part about how you were picked and chosen for this task. You hung up your boots in 2019 and you must have thought कि अब मैं gardening करूँगा. वो तो आपके नसीब में नहीं. So then you get this. How did this come? I mean, it has to be a divine intervention. नहीं तो to get this task.
Honestly, I have mentioned at other interviews also. I really never thought that this task will come my way. Because the judgment was also not there. So there was no opening, there was no question. To tell you the truth, people of my generation, even your generation, younger generation, and many generations who have gone, they never ever thought that the Ram temple will be a reality.
I agree.
It was not there.
Correct.
The dream came true only after 2014-15 that there is a possibility of a temple. Because it had come up to the Supreme Court level, there were all kinds of efforts for reconciliation that Supreme Court sponsored. It didn't come through. Again, there was disappointment. But then finally, unanimous judgment. So, when the judgment came, there was a position which was there for the Chairman Construction Committee. I was casually talking to Mr. P.K. Mishra, who is the Principal Secretary now. And I mentioned to him that, Mr. Mishra, you have given me the chairmanship, that is, Prime Minister has given me the chairmanship of the present Pradhan Mantri Sangrahalaya and Library, which is good enough. But maybe that's not the kind of thing I was expecting. And in my very casual conversation, because in my mind, the thing which was working was some kind of a governorship or something like that, which normally comes to a civil servant.
Yeah.
So I said, well, you can think of the Ayodhya temple. He perhaps mentioned that to the Prime Minister. And then the Prime Minister was, in a way, this was information to him that I would be willing to work. He asked the Home Minister to verify with me, check with me, whether such a job would be acceptable. So I got a call from him that, would you like to take this work? And I said yes. But at the end of the day, I do believe what you said, that it was all divine. It came almost everything in about 10-12 days, the chairmanship of this construction committee. And something which was never thought of, something which had never occurred in my mind, and that came my way. So yes, it is true. It is divine blessings. In fact, I was once talking to Ma Amritanandmayi. You may know.
Yes.
The famous,
the hug person.
The lakhs and millions of people have been hugged and blessed by her.
Ji.
So I mentioned to her that I am doing this. She immediately smiled and said that this is the job. She used the word, samarpan karke pura kar sakoge. Meaning by, just surrender now to the Lord. Then only you can complete this work. If you don't, you cannot complete this work. And the surrender meant that you must now not be unduly perturbed or disturbed by some criticism, by some, let's say, people who come in the way and stop the progress. So just do it with full samarpan. So frankly, that is the message that I am trying to live with.
Submerge yourself in the task.
That's all. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So I've seen you in various working in various capacities. When you were abroad, when you were in India, as an IAS officer. The skills of an IAS officer is, if you were to just broadly say, is systems and to work in those systems. But this requires you to break systems, create new systems. Your expertise was civilians and ordinary people ke saath politicians and ordinary, right? Those pathways. These are new pathways. So kahan se wo skills aayi hain aapki?
पता नहीं आई भी हैं कि नहीं, I don't know. But yes, this was totally different. The first challenge was there right in the first month, when I suddenly realized that everybody I was interacting with, people of Ayodhya and the trust and everybody, so they all rightly thought, very rightly thought, they had done the agitation. They had fought for the temple. And now when the job has come for the construction of the temple, it should go to them.
Correct. Yes.
It should not come to a person like me.
Though you are not really a Delhi wala, you are from UP
Yeah,
also.
I am, but they wanted somebody who is part of them.
Correct, okay.
And it's understandable.
Yeah.
So there was little bit of adjustment issue. It did take about month or two to define that where you stand and where I stand. And then we got used to. So it's a situation where the strange bedfellows do survive.
Okay.
So,
but then I guess the weight of the thing was that, it was loaded in your favor because the Prime Minister picked you. So everybody knows you're Mr. Modi's man there. So I guess that matters too.
It could be. It could be. I would not say that that is not. The perception is there. Very correct perception, I would say. That they think that this appointment has been done by the Prime Minister. Which is true.
Yeah.
Which is true. There is no doubt about it. Because
Right.
it mentions in the trust that I'll be there. But the adjustment issues are not just with the people who are of Ayodhya. It was a question of teamwork. Let me tell you, the biggest challenge, and if it becomes successful, it will be not because of me. It will be because of the teamwork which has developed, the culture which has developed. I have to speak to L&T. I have to talk with TCE, Tata Consultants. I have to talk with other architects. I have to talk with various ministries. So it was coordination. I would say the blessed part of this was that wherever I went, whosoever I met for any cause, with any request, it was forthcoming without any question. I mean, I don't have to give example whether it was railways, whether it was police in Uttar Pradesh for the movement of trucks, or railways for the movement of granite from the southern India, or supplies of different stones from Rajasthan.
From Sri Lanka also, sir.
Sri Lanka, of course.
वहाँ से जो सीता का
Yeah,
thing
they
which is
gave
come.
that a small piece. But
What I mean is, like, it's a collective effort
Yeah.
of so many people. Like, but to coordinate all that, a massive task which was on your shoulders.
I was fortunate. But
Were you scared a little bit, sir? कि अगर ना हो पाए, अगर मैं ना कर पाऊँ थोड़ा?
I think at the moment I'm worried now because of the time frame.
Time frame.
Yeah, I am at the moment definitely concerned that I have to deliver by 31st of December 23 and later by 24.
Right.
There the progress is not all that according to my calculations, so I'm little concerned. So when the work started, I was not so scared. I had faith in God, and I have faith in God. So I thought things will come. And somewhere I think I am only an instrument. I am an instrument for something which God has willed. So there is nothing more as far as my appointment is concerned. Just an instrument, just a medium to see that it is constructed.
So our younger generation, I mean, you brought up that thing that your generation, my generation, usse pehle ke our parents' generation, they won't have envisaged something like this.
Yeah.
That होगा कि नहीं होगा, नहीं मानेंगे, courts नहीं मानेंगी, ये जो धार्मिक संस्थान है, वो they won't come on the same page, होगा ही नहीं कभी, And then the politics of it all, one political party, the second political party making fun of the other party कि तुम तो सिर्फ manifesto में लाते हो, होगा कभी नहीं. I've also been part of that where I've questioned leaders कि तुम बोलते क्या हो, करते तो हो नहीं.
Yes,
I mean,
it appeared almost in all election manifestos of the party.
Yeah. So I've also been part of that skeptical gang which thought that it will never get made कि कुछ और ही बना दो उस जमीन पे अगर नहीं बना सकते तो. I even remember, sir, that when I used to do news for Doordarshan in those days, and when the Babri Masjid fell, the very next day I was voicing a story for the news thing, and I was told that to call it जो ढांचा गिर गया था उसी दिन, and this is a Congress government which was in power. I was immediately told कि आप उसे मस्जिद नहीं कहेंगे, आप उसे कहिए ढांचा जो था वो. So those who think that it's, it was just the BJP, no, the Congress government too took ownership the very next day to what happened. So I want to come back, sir, to your years. The younger generation may not know about your links with Uttar Pradesh. People might, the younger generation might think, abhi gaye hain Mishra ji, Uttar Pradesh. नहीं जानते कि आप you were private secretary to Mulayam Singh ji, जो chief minister थे. You were with Kalyan Singh ji, जो chief minister थे. उस वक्त के बारे में, उस दौर के बारे में बताइए, and its links with Ayodhya and what happened then with Mulayam Singh ji, with Kalyan Singh ji.
I was principal secretary to Mulayam Singh ji.
Principal, sorry.
And
not private secretary, principal secretary.
Mulayam Singh ji very strongly believed that this dispute is not good for the communities, and therefore we must not recreate history. He was strongly of the view that the issue of, Ram born at that very place is something which cannot be is not proven. In fact, I recall in one of the smaller meetings where the chief minister was not there, one of the ministers joked कि आप तो अभी कहेंगे कि वहाँ सीता रसोई है, वहाँ सीता जी भिंडी की सब्जी बनाती थी. You see, there is a place Sita Rasoi very
Yes.
close, which is there, and we are going to conserve that. So that
भवन बन रहा है वहाँ पे रसोई का ना.
that gentleman said that what proof do you have? So yes, it is. It was an issue.
You were sitting in that meeting, sir?
Yes, I was there, and it was an issue. But then, I suppose gradually the country also realized that this dispute must get settled, and the only way to settle this is through the judicial process, the legal process.
So उस वक्त जब ये सब जब हो रहा था, you were principal secretary when that the car sevaks
Yes, I was there. I was sitting in the control room.
when they attacked.
Yes, not when the Babri Masjid fell
No,
down.
the car sevak attacks.
When the first car sevak agitation took place,
Saryu
and
river में कूद गए
Kothari
थे.
brothers died
Yes.
because of the firing, I was very much there. And I recall the commissioner calling me almost repeatedly that there is such a crowd here that it is, you cannot estimate, and you cannot say from where they are coming. They were coming from all directions, all villages. They were just concentrating to Ayodhya. It was in a way challenge to what the police then had claimed, that not a bird will reach there.
Yeah.
Parinda par nahi marega. That claim was in 24 hours that was belied, and you could see the attack on the place. It was only on the appeal of the workers, the leaders of the agitation, that the car sevaks.
Yes, on that bridge they crossed that bridge.
Yeah, they crossed.
Yeah.
They reached. They were right there.
Yeah.
But only after the appeal from the leaders of the movement that they decided to withdraw the first time.
Yes.
And of course, the
But
death
did you
situation.
at that time feel that Mulayam Singh ji didn't realize or that this is too big even for him now?
He was worried. He was worried because he thought that it will be very difficult to control. But then there is, in politics, there is a commitment of a certain position. And very few can then introduce corrections in that process. Once you take the path. He had taken the path in which opposition to the temple was part of his administrative arrangement, part of his, let us say, running governance issue, that there must not be temple constructed at this stage.
And then comes Kalyan Singh ji, and he doesn't replace you. Usually ऐसे ही होता है ना, chief ministers आते हैं, वो replace कर देते हैं. But he had you there. At that time, what happened, sir? उस वक्त when you were with Kalyan Singh ji, मेरे को समझ नहीं आता that I just feel history was not fair to Kalyan Singh ji. Somehow I feel that what happened?
Kalyan Singh ji, as long as I was there till about 1992. And Kalyan Singh ji believed, of course, no doubt about that the temple has to be constructed. He was committed that he would deliver the temple. And in his own manner, he had promised the government of India that there will be no disturbance, but the temple will be constructed.
Yeah.
It did not come through, and when it came, when the Babri Masjid fell, he was very much the chief minister. I must say, to his credit, not many know, that when the police and the central police particularly asked permission to fire, he refused. The Home Secretary of that time asked him that, look, the firing is now necessary. Kalyan Singh, as a brave chief minister, said, bring the file, write whatever you want to recommend, then I will write that I am ordering that there will be no firing. So he did write. The file contains his order that no bullet will be fired on the crowd of God Sevaks. So that was his faith and belief. Of course, the temple came into being after the judicial intervention. But Kalyan Singh was of the firm view that if he was given few more years, he would have delivered in a peaceful process. But then the government was, dismissed, suspended and later dismissed. So he had to go.
Where were you when the Babri Masjid came down?
When Babri Masjid came down, I was chairman of Greater Noida.
Okay.
I was transferred in September of that year and it fell in December.
Why did you fall out of favor with Kalyan Singh ji?
Oh, not at all.
No?
Not at all.
Okay.
Oh, I mean, there is no question. He was a very sad person. When in the middle of the night there were 2-3 other ministerial ministers, I was called and they said that by that time my family had shifted to Delhi because of my children's education. So they said that would you like to go closer to Delhi because now your family is not here. Well, I realized that perhaps there are greater things at work. And so I said, yes, I would be happy if I am given anything in Noida and Greater Noida. So I became chairman.
If you had been, looking back at your career, if you had continued as principal secretary with Kalyan Singh ji, would you have advised him differently on that day when the Babri Masjid came down?
No. I would have definitely advised him that there should be no firing. For the simple reason that you cannot fire a crowd of lakhs, not thousands. And you cannot control. And there is another factor to it. Even those who were responsible for law and order, I am speaking particularly of the police, majority of them believed in some manner or the other. Their duty was different, but their faith was different.
Yes.
That was, in fact, if you recall the events, that evening after the firing when Kothari brothers died, all the constables in their mess did not take food.
That is the earlier incident. The Saryu incident.
Yeah. They did not take food. So that was the kind of sentiment. I do not think a crowd of this nature could have been handled in a manner. I mean, calling military, of course, is an option. But that option would have meant thousands maybe not there, may not live. So the option was very clear for the chief minister now to accept what was happening.
The police force in both the incidents, when Mulayam Singh ji was chief minister and when Kalyan Singh ji was chief minister, the police was terribly disturbed, divided. Some, of course, that it's an order, it's a duty, have to do, will do. Some who were saving the media, saving the car sevaks, doing things which were probably not their order but going beyond the call of duty. How was the IAS? You're from the IAS. How was the IAS dealing in both the incidents?
Second time, of course, I was not there because I was transferred. But first time, I do recall that when the secretariat employees during lunch hour were protesting and they were demanding that the temple should be constructed there and the government should not be so aggressive against the agitators. A very strong group of IS officers wanted a discussion with the chief secretary. And a meeting was called by the then chief secretary to explain that why IS officers it is call of duty and they must not at all get into the faith issue. They must do what is required by the government. So the senior officer sat, I was very much there in that meeting, and the chief secretary addressed the officers and called upon them that, look, we are not to decide what is now the final decision. We have to implement what is the final decision. And therefore, guys, you go and work as is required.
So, this kind of training, Fauj mein hoti hai. When the Golden Temple action happened, it was the same thing which the commanders then had to tell their men that if any of you don't want to do this because your faith doesn't permit it, step aside. And nobody stepped aside. They all were like, this is my call of duty, I have to do it. But IAS में वो training तो होती नहीं है ना, that kind of training. I mean, how do you keep your faith apart and how do you keep, what kind of training? I'm not saying that नहीं है training, I'm presuming कि नहीं है.
This training comes from academy days.
Okay. Lal Bahadur Shastri Academy.
Yes, in Mussoorie. I recall that my life, my belief, the way I was conducting myself completely changed after I got into the academy. And from there on, the only thing which was injected in my mind was, you have to serve the state where you are, you have to serve the country where you are. And there is a democracy, there is a political system, and you have to work with them. And in many respects, you have to recognize that you are subordinate to them. I think this training comes from academy and later also you imbibe it from your seniors. So it may not come in the manner that you said the army people, but I think devotion to call of duty and devotion to whatever the system demands, the governance demands, that is even now I'm confident.
It's your DNA.
Remains. Yeah. It's in the DNA.
It's in the DNA. Right. So you were in the Prime Minister's office for 5 years. Tell us about the working style of the Prime Minister, because you saw him in such close contact for hours together every single day for 7 years, unless he was traveling abroad. I believe you didn't travel with him.
Never.
You didn't. Okay. So when he was not traveling abroad, when he was here, tell us about जो कार्यशैली होती है प्रधानमंत्री की. You've seen closely other prime ministers also, in the sense that you were not in the PMO, but you've worked, you've interacted because you were a very senior government functionary. So tell us what it was like. Firstly, why did you get chosen for the job as principal secretary? That itself was like, क्या खासियत है कि वो प्राइम मिनिस्टर जो हैं, he has chosen Mr. Mishra. He's very particular that he wants only Mr. Nripendra Mishra. So why you? What do you think was the reason? And what was it like those 5 years?
Look, I had never met the Honorable Prime Minister before I was chosen. That is, I recall 20th of May 2014 when I was called in Gujarat Bhavan. Why was I chosen? How he got to know about me? Perhaps their group of ministers, senior ministers, who met him in Ahmedabad, they must have suggested panel of names. That's his style.
Okay.
The Prime Minister, in fact, I could learn that from him the very first time when I interacted after becoming Principal Secretary. I, along with Cabinet Secretary, went with names of secretaries for certain administrative arrangements. And we thought he will say yes. So we read such and such should come here, such and such should come here. So he looked at us and said, look, I don't want this. You cannot expect orders from me like this. Please come with panel of names. I will make the selection. And then you will pass the order. So that is the process going to be.
Okay.
So I am very sure, even for the selection of the Principal Secretary, he must have had panel of names to be considered. They were all there in some manner or the other. There was a speculation already going on. And then he made his choice. I was not sort of offered the job the very first time when I met him. So he just called me and asked me to do some work. Never referred to.
You had already retired by then.
Oh yes.
Superannuated?
Yeah. I had superannuated and I had even completed my after superannuation job of Telecom Regulatory Chairman. That was also completed.
Yes.
So he said, could you please do something? So I said, I'll try. So he said, you are being given a room in Gujarat Bhavan. You come in the morning. And after 3 days, I'll call you again. So I did my work, whatever was assigned, and then I went to him. I was summoned. I recall Mr. Jaitley, late Mr. Jaitley was sitting there. Amit Shah ji was sitting there. I made my presentation. I'm very sure one thing must have disappointed him because I didn't present it to him on
As
screen.
a PowerPoint presentation.
PowerPoint presentation. I had taken hard copy, given to all four of them and selected. So I'm very sure the tech savvy that he is, he must have thought this man is not tech savvy. Yeah, I'm 100% sure about it. And compared to him, I was not. So he said that my proposal was discussed briefly. Then I was dismissed from there. They must have then taken a political view about the matter. And in the evening, I was called again. And he said, would you like to work with me? So that is how I was selected. So why I was selected, I don't know. But perhaps...
Did your colleagues all call you up and say कि मत करना, he's a hard taskmaster?
No.
Though आपके बारे में भी ये कहा जाता था, if I may just share that, it used to be said that you used to have very strict deadlines and अगर किसी ने तो शामत उसकी अगर वो नहीं हुआ तो. Your work style was somewhat similar, would you say?
In terms of delivery, yes. He believes in a certain time frame. He goes all out to implement that. He is extremely receptive even during implementation to hear about the issues which are coming up. If we can resolve it, he resolves at his level even. So his is a very, and something which is very special about his style in this is his modular approach. He doesn't climb the mountain. He goes step by step, step by step. And once he sees it has been achieved, he immediately shows you the next peak, then the third peak, and then the mountain. So that is the way he takes you. The moment you go and tell him that I have delivered this, you never get kudos from him. Because then he will say, अच्छा अब ये करना है, अब ये करना है. So that is how he moves. I think as a person who is in governance, implementing the programs in a defined time manner, perhaps I would rate the Prime Minister. There's something special about him. I don't think it is fear element that he will do something to the... He has never punished any officer. So even that is not there. But there is an element of awe, you can say, or whatever. The officers felt during my tenure that the Prime Minister desires certain time frame for implementation and he would like it to be done.
So from the outside as a journalist, one has observed that when Dr. Manmohan Singh, and all credit to him for all that he did in his tenure, but when the Prime Minister gave orders, it wasn't necessary that the bureaucracy would do it. I'll be honest with you, I've seen both the Prime Minister's offices, PMO of both the times. But when because there were several layers of functioning in that PMO. It's even his principal secretary was working, his staff was different, his media advisors were different. The PMO itself was not as tightly knit as this PMO is. And a directive from the PMO during Dr. Manmohan Singh's time did not have the same weightage as a directive from the PMO during Prime Minister Modi's tenure. In the first 5 years, did you notice the difference? Because as an IAS officer, you worked in both. Did you notice that difference?
It was very clear. I think the implementation and compliance was a lot better during the time of Prime Minister Modi. I don't think the threat worked. I don't think there was any fear of punishment. But there was an element, or let us say every secretary felt that he is being observed not even by Principal Secretary. He is being observed by the Prime Minister.
Okay.
Somehow, his control on the progress of the projects and implementation of the program, he was so well informed, at times ahead of me as Principal Secretary, that the secretaries in general believed that their performance is being observed and therefore they will be answerable. So that accountability and answerability was
there.
lot more effective when the Prime Minister Modi was.
So, as soon as he became PM and you were there in that team, that first speech from Red Fort when he talked about Swachh Bharat, and then him going with the jhadu, and then other ministers. At that time, I remember speaking to some joint secretaries and additional secretaries at that time who were like, "Ye Pradhan Mantri kar rahe hain? What is this? Why is he entering South Block? Why is he coming and opening up our cupboards and telling us ki ye hatao, wo hatao?" And we as journalists who have seen that mothballed files ऊपर तक जा रही हैं, was like, अच्छा हुआ, you know. We were taking perverse pleasure, but and you know, we were looking at all this that was happening. So did they, because they're also from your service itself, did they tell you that ये Prime Minister को समझाओ ना करें?
There were certain discussions, and you know, the secretaries and joint secretaries, they are all intellectual. I mean, intellectually, they are very, very well equipped. Therefore, they could evaluate even the Prime Minister from their point of view. So there were initial remarks that this is perhaps not the function of the Prime Minister because he cannot do micromanagement.
Yeah.
There is always this talk of micromanagement versus macromanagement.
Correct.
And how far the Prime Minister should go, or Principal Secretary. I was even accused that the Principal Secretary at times does a lot of micromanagement. And he should leave it to the secretaries. But at the end of the day, everyone had come to appreciate when they saw the delivery of the Prime Minister. When they recognized that if he meant the electrification of 1,800 villages which were left. I recall when he was reviewing the electrification of villages, he was told that the total villages not electrified are 1,800. And then at the end when he normally after the meeting concludes, all meetings he concludes. So he said that, look, 1,800, I know you guys can do it, please don't come up with the excuse. And I think he gave 3 to 4 months. And all the villages were electrified.
Correct.
And he even mentioned his Gujarat Day experience. Don't just put the poles there. Don't just put the wires there and don't connect it. Because the next step, he had already decided about this step. The next step was electrification of the, certain houses which belong to scheduled caste and scheduled tribes. So the moment you say that all villages have been electrified, the next test was that now please give connection
To the poor
to
homes.
the scheduled caste and scheduled tribe homes, and you will be tested.
Correct.
So is this connect with each program with the next program, which I call the modular approach, was extremely effective.
And also using technology. I remember, so one of the earliest documentaries that I was working on was putting up, when the government said कि हमने biogas plants लगाए हैं, यहाँ पे यूपी में इतने लगाए, बिहार में इतने लगाए, we sent and said that documentary बनाओ इन पे. When we sent the team, there was none. In some villages, there was none. No biogas plants had been set up out there. Sir, हम documentary कैसे बनाए जब लगाया ही नहीं biogas plant? तो long shot पे लगा के बना दो. So this was a joke that I told Mr. Piyush Goyal that, you're talking about electrification. उन्होंने झट से अपना phone निकाला. He was the power minister at that time. I think he took out the phone and he said, look, we have this app. And in this app, name any village. You can name any village, tap on that, see, and you will get the shot. And he said, this is what the Prime Minister had told us. I need to see whether that village has light or not. So with the satellite technology, of course, when I'm talking about a time biogas ka jab technology nahi thi hamare paas, but now with that technology, you could see whether that village has light or not. So these are the micromanagement to karna padega, otherwise, kaam chalao.
He forced a dashboard on each minister's table.
हाँ.
That was the way to manage. So even ministers and us,
Yeah.
I have to include myself, we were not used to that kind of technology,
Yeah.
which was enforced.
Okay, so another question I have to ask is that I was told that there were just about 10 people who knew about demonetization. Were you one of those?
Yes, I suppose at one stage, perhaps only about 5 people knew.
5. That demonetization.
Yes.
And you knew about it?
Yes,
You
there's
knew.
no doubt about it.
Why did he want to do it?
I will not be surprised if I claim that I was the first person to know about it.
About demonetization?
Yes.
And it was the prime
I mean his intent.
his intent.
His intent.
Because he even joked in the parliament about Jaitley ji when Jaitley ji said, उनको भी नहीं पता था नहीं तो फिर और लोगों को पता लगा.
Well, that's not true.
No, he joked about it in parliament. It was a joke and even Jaitley ji laughed about it, God rest his soul. But it was, I guess, the trust in you that when he...
No, it had to be implemented. And if the implementation had to take place, then a thing like demonetization could not be implemented through the normal method of messages and, each step was kept secret. The printing of notes, why it is being printed in this manner, was a secret. The total number of calculation of notes and its usage and distribution, how it will be done, was secret. So, here was a situation because the intent was that the black money, we didn't succeed 100% on that. Everyone knows that. There was such a huge exchange of black money into the white through the bank. I often, if you ask me that what do you think was your failure, I will say only one failure was I could not imagine that the bank staff at a lower level will not cooperate with the intent of the government. The exchange of notes took place in a very, very, I would say, surreptitious manner. That took place. But yes, not many people knew about demonetization. It was discussed with a very small group. I discussed with, so I got the broad idea about the Prime Minister thinking of black money. And then he said one such step could be this. He knew that Morarji Desai had done it. So he said, read the files of Morarji Desai Times. We did that. And then I had to consult few more colleagues of mine. So one or two colleagues in the system of Prime Minister office and in Finance Ministry were consulted. So your number of 10 will perhaps come true at that stage.
Okay. I have to get to this. When the Prime Minister tweeted about you, when you said that I'm done and you wanted to leave, that I want to ask you also. Why did you say you want to leave? And then the Prime Minister tweeted and he said, when I was new to Delhi in 2014, he taught me a lot and his guidance remains extremely valuable. Amazing words. I don't recall a Prime Minister saying that about a Principal Secretary. It must have really meant a lot to you.
Well, I have to say, if you get his speech on my farewell, I couldn't believe. I was in tears. The cabinet ministers and secretaries to the government who were invited, they couldn't believe. Prime Minister spoke for 45 minutes and he spoke only about me. No other word except me. Such was his sentiment. So he had full faith in me. There was no question of my not enjoying the faith. But I think, I carried the message to him that it's time I left.
Because?
I had started feeling that perhaps Prime Minister may like to experiment with change. One tenure was over, another tenure had come. So I was getting that feeling that some kind of new trial for new set of officers may be his idea. Because after all, one does, there is an organizational takeover in everybody. In 5 years, I would definitely start thinking whatever I am doing is right. This is the organization. It is the organization. In the first year, you beat the organization. Remaining 4 years, the organization beats you.
Wonderful.
This is what happens. So, I am very sure, Prime Minister sharp that he is, he must be thinking that perhaps if something new has to be done, a new experiment has to come.
Reshuffle.
Yeah, reshuffle.
So, also I would think that years of having worked with politicians in very close contact, you're able to preempt what the boss wants. Is that it? Or second guess?
Well, I suppose most of the officers get to understand their bosses. I mean, whether you are with the Prime Minister or with the Minister, they do get... there have been many occasions where I went and, even as a junior officer, I went and told my Minister that you must get a change now. Yeah.
So what is it that when he says that his guidance was extremely valuable, he taught me a lot, आपने कौन सी ऐसी चीज, if you were to just randomly, it's only between you and him?
No. It's very... You see, I would only tell him the background. If any decision had to be taken, I will tell him the background. I will tell him the administrative positions of bureaucracy, how bureaucracy will see that. And there were occasions where I made the mistake. I perhaps did not adequately advise him. I can mention that the first Land Acquisition Act, which was implemented, it was implemented with the aid and advice of ministers and myself and some secretaries. It was withdrawn, if you recall. It was not implemented. One ordinance, second ordinance, third ordinance was not passed, it lapsed. It was a mistake. The time for that kind of reform had not come. These reforms come and they become successful because the time comes. 1991, the reforms were successful because the time had come for that. Likewise, later reforms also, which happened during Prime Minister's time, there was a time for which it happened and it was. But in the case of farmers, I think we misread the farmer mood twice. One when I was there, the second time when the agitation took place, when the Prime Minister went public. So, there are occasions when we have wrongly advised the Prime Minister. But the beauty of this Prime Minister is, he will never tell you. When I went to tell him that please do not issue the third ordinance on this matter, he looked at me. He said, you are telling me? Never ever said that you are one who made the mistake and therefore I have to now allow it to lapse. Never mentioned that. No, everything was not 100% successful in all the implementations, but not even once he would use the word, you guys are responsible.
The buck stops with him and he would take the fall.
He takes the full responsibility for what happens.
Interesting. One anecdote I must mention was many years ago, one principal secretary to a former chief minister told me that वो chief minister बने थे बड़ी with a strange situation. तो जब वो chief minister बने, he came from a very rural background, not familiar with the capital city and its machinations और chief minister कैसे आगे आते हैं. How does the guard of honor take place? कैसे होता है? तो the principal secretary was explaining carefully that जब आप आते हैं, जब आप उतरते हैं, तो आप झट से लोगों से मिलने नहीं जाएंगे. आप एक कायदे से जाएंगे. और वो धोती पहनते थे. तो उनको मैं नाम नहीं लूँगी सर, पर आप समझ जाएंगे because he was one of your contemporaries. So he said that मैंने चीफ मिनिस्टर को समझाया कि जब वो गाड़ी से उतरते हैं, क्योंकि वो धोती पहनते हैं, तो उसको ऐसे पकड़ के फिर उतरे, नहीं तो यू कैन सी जो द बेयर लेग. सो उनको ये सब समझाया मैंने. He says, but I also knew that I will last only 1 year. Because every time he looks at me, he will be, it is a reminder of the days where he was unsophisticated, and he will post me out. So after 1 year of the tenure, he told the chief minister कि आप मुझे center भेज दीजिए. So he moved to the center. Now I want to ask you this, that here was a chief minister who had absolutely no experience of Delhi. When he came here, sir, there were lots of people saying, अरे इन्हें तो आता ही नहीं है, इन्हें तो कुछ पता ही नहीं है, दिल्ली कैसे function करेगी. You had a chief minister who came in who had never done Lok Sabha. It was his first entry into parliament. What were the do's and don'ts that you as a team were navigating him through in Delhi?
I think he was very well prepared for the position. And he did not require any such briefing. Of course, there were occasions when he was listened to. For example, if 15th August function has to take place. So it is customary for people who are responsible for 15th August to make a presentation. This is how you will enter, this is where you will go. You will first go to, the Amir Shahid Stamp. Then from there you will go to Gandhiji's Shraddhanjali, like that. All that he heard, but he never felt inadequate to his job. And perhaps he was a step ahead. Let me just conclude this by one example. When he was getting briefing, right in the first 3-4 days from the then foreign secretary, because he had never handled international relations. He had handled all other things. So she perhaps was giving some kind of elementary lessons of the diplomacy. And here was a person who had visited all the places, who in Greyhound had visited all the states of America. He had gone to Japan twice, he had gone to Beijing twice, he had negotiated for the release of some Gujarati students from China, etc., etc. He had his own ideas. In fact, it was his idea to call the leaders of the neighboring countries at the time of swearing-in ceremony. It was never the suggestion of the Foreign Affairs.
Achha.
It was entirely the suggestion of his, which was implemented by Mr. Ajit Doval, who then was not National Security Advisor. He was still there in Vivekananda, but he came, the Prime Minister just consulted him about the feasibility, and then he told him, why don't you check informally with the leaders whether they will come or not. So he sort of was very impatient with this training, briefing which was coming from the Foreign Secretary. That temperamental mismatch between the Foreign Secretary and the Prime Minister was very evident. And it was clear that one has to go, and obviously that will be the bureaucrat who will go. And that's the price. He was ready for everything. He knew what will be his foreign policy. While briefing is required, background is required, but I think the direction was already predetermined. He knew what will be the direction of his foreign policy, what will be the direction of the rural development, what will be the policy for technology. So he was very, very well prepared.
Were you surprised with that he was so prepared? Or while meeting the team, you knew that he has done meticulous homework on every sphere?
Not surprise, but sense of admiration. That was always there. Every time one attended the meeting, one always felt that he has learned something. That was always.
So, towards the end, I will just ask you, one, of course, when you left the PMO, was there a sense of satisfaction, or was there a twinge of, I could have maybe done a little more? What was that feeling?
There was, I don't think there was any feeling of regret. I don't think there was any feeling of loss. I had done my tenure. I knew the time is there for me to come out of the Prime Minister's office. But on the issue of sense of satisfaction, after every job, one feels that one could have done better if one was given the same job again.
That's such an honest view about that.
So that is very clear. Today I can do the district magistrateship better than what I did in Hardoi and Unnao and other places.
Right.
So it's a fact that one is always inadequate to the level that he must achieve.
Right. A principal secretary to a prime minister is considered the gatekeeper in many respects. Did you get that feeling that that people thought you were overprotective of your prime minister? Like some people used to say that when you were principal secretary to the chief minister, that he keeps him cushioned and covered. Hum mil nahi sakte hain, because you know how Uttar Pradesh politicians are. Everybody wants to barge into the chief minister's house, and regardless whether it was Mayawati ji, whether it was Mulayam Singh ji, I have seen that bade naraz hote hain with the bureaucracy ki humko milne nahi dete, because they all considered that ye humne banaya bhai. So do you get that feeling that people felt that about you?
See, this is a natural response, because majority of the people don't know that officials and politicians both, that each leader decides his evening program and next day's program himself, independently.
Okay.
I was never consulted in the office of the chief minister who to meet or not to meet. There used to be one very, his PS, very close to him, one Mr. Goel, who used to present the requests. All the requests will be mentioned, it will be shown to him, and then he will tick mark, connect on telephone, give the appointment, and then he will give the appointment. But yes, you are very right. As in the office of Chief Secretary, I was accused that I don't allow the officers whom I don't like to meet the Chief Minister. It was not really true. I am honestly telling you. In the case of the present Prime Minister, it is totally different. There is appointment Joint Secretary level officer who presents the matters. PSS here take down the note from him in the evening at 11 p.m. in the night that these people he will meet. He has his own views about who to meet. In fact, I recall, you may know it or not, the first time when he was visiting abroad, like all previous prime ministers, I carried the names of the press guys who will go with him. So he looked at it and then didn't comment anything. After about 2-3 hours, again I said, it is getting late. Why didn't you clear it? So he said, if I don't take any press person, what will happen? I said, sir, it will lead to bad relations with the press. He said, why? The press, in these so-called monarchs of the press, they will send their own representatives. They don't have to bother for the funds, and just because you take them in the plane is not necessary. So I said, no sir, this has been the convention, etc. Then they are given certain treatment in the embassy. He said, nothing doing. Please note down, nobody will go. No press representative will go with me. That's all. So that was his decision. It was final.
And to convey that is not your job?
Not at all. People got to know. I don't have to give reason. Because then all other trips also, there was no question of suggesting to him.
Yeah.
My visit, I somehow felt that, look, he has discussed everything here. What is it that I will contribute there when the foreign secretary and foreign ministers are generally with him?
Yeah.
So when the list went, I said that maybe person mentioned that one may not be selected or picked up for this, and 2 and 3 like that. One was me. He immediately accepted. He said, yes, you must stay home, stay back here when I am abroad. And that was it. That became the order of the day. The principal secretary, my predecessor, after only about 3 months came to me, Mr. Nair, I will give you the name.
P.K. Nair.
And Mr. Nair said, Nipi, what have you done? You are not going with the Prime Minister. It's a disaster. You are inviting your dismissal in about 6 months' time. You will be superfluous if you are not going with the Prime Minister. I said, sir, but that is what I have suggested and advised him. He said, well, I have come to warn you. That's about it. Was the purpose of my meeting. But nothing happened.
And I've seen Mr. Brijesh Mishra as I think one of the most powerful principal secretaries that I have, in my reporting days, that I have seen. If you have a longer experience of, and of course you are part of the civil service, we are from the outside seen it. In your 50, 60 years that you have seen the bureaucracy closely, who do you think would be the most powerful principal secretary that you have seen so far?
Well, you have named Mr. Mishra. Mr. Mishra was powerful because of his relationship beyond the principal secretaryship with the Mr. Bajpayee. I would also name Mr. A.N. Verma as one who was very, very powerful, and perhaps was powerful in the sense that he could carry the wishes of the Prime Minister to the secretaries very effectively.
That was during Rajiv Gandhi's time? No.
Also Narasimha Rao's. Yeah.
Oh, liberalization.
Yes,
he was the principal
if he
secretary.
said that by tomorrow the cabinet note should come, the cabinet note will come. So that was the effectiveness of Mr. Verma. And the third of my time, I was young though, was the time when Mrs. Gandhi had Mr. Dhar.
P.N. Dhar.
Yeah.
Yeah.
As the principal secretary.
Okay. Was Mr. Naresh Chandra principal secretary ever?
No, he was cabinet secretary.
Cabinet secretary.
But he was always very effective.
And he, I think, had several different important tenures during his thing. So,
I think he was consulted even when he was outside the system. He was consulted. Later he was brought in for Ayodhya. He remained very relevant in the system.
Right. So because of the proximity to power, does it ever feel sometimes that you get that, secondary power because you're so close to the most important person in the country?
Well, I would say that this kind of some kind of a message in your mind occasionally does pass by that you matter. I would not deny that. Whether it converts itself, the message, into arrogance, that depends on individual.
And how did you guard against that?
I don't know if I...
No, you never came across as arrogant.
The others will decide about it, so I will leave it to the judgment of others.
Right, sir. So on our behalf, on ANI's behalf, we thank you so much for spending this time with us, explaining about the temple, and good wishes to you, all the best to you.
I need it.
And we look forward to doing a darshan when everybody is allowed to come there.
23rd of December 2024.
And darshan will begin before the Prime Minister?
No, 23rd January. I am wrong.
23rd January.
Yeah.
Right.
Immediately.
So as soon as the Prime Minister does it, and immediately
Yes.
for everybody else.
All the invitees would have the darshan the same day,
Okay.
and next morning onwards, it will be open to all.
Okay. So we look forward to a dream come true to be able to do this darshan. Thank you so much,
Thank
sir.
you. Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you. Thank you for watching or listening to this episode of ANI Podcast with Smita Prakash. Do like or subscribe on whichever channel you have seen this or heard this. Namaste. Jai Hind. Click here to watch the previous episodes.